on these issues. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I'll yield back.
Thank you, Mr. Cohen. You're recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you putting together this panel, and Chairman Graves and all the witnesses who've testified here. In 2014, my constituents who were present, Randy and Laurie Higginbotham, lost their 33-year-old son, Michael, like thousands of others, unfortunately, have, to the harrowing tragedy that is truck underride. Circumstance wherein all the passenger safety mechanisms placed in passenger vehicles are effectively rendered null when striking the rear side or front of a semi-truck tractor trailer. Ms. Tierney, I appreciated your testimony, and I know that as you testify that you've lost a family to this particular painful type of tragedy. In 2016, truck crash fatalities totaled 4,317, 28% increase since 2009. That same year, the number of truck crashes totaled 475,000, resulting in 145,000 injuries. Of those injuries, we know some of the most debilitating injuries resulted from truck underride crashes. What can we do to address this problem, especially should every member of this Congress support the bill that's just bipartisan in the Senate that's been introduced to mandate the placement of truck underrides? Yes, ma'am.
We absolutely should pass comprehensive underride protection. That would strengthen the rear guard standard that we currently have. It would require a side underride guard, and it would study certainly front underride guards and the maintenance of all those guards. That is life-saving technology, absolutely.
Based on your time advocating for truck underride, do you think there's any chance the industry would voluntarily self-regulate for the safety in this matter?
While some in the industry have, and for them we are very grateful for that, but others have not and probably would not. Therefore, I do believe that a mandate is needed to make sure that the entire industry is doing the safest thing to prevent these catastrophic crashes. My dad was killed when Michael Higginbotham was a baby. So this is a problem that's been going on for decades and decades, so I do believe a mandate is needed.
Well, I found from my sponsorship, the responses I've got from a whole lot of folks in the trucking industry has been negative and harrowing, and that the safety of the potential victim is not of a concern, or certainly something they think that is fiscally within their possibilities. In 2002, a report was issued by Technology and Maintenance Council and the American Trucking Association entitled A Brief Look at the Far Horizon. This is 16 years ago, an exploration of what's to come for trucking. It predicted even anticipated regulations on the front and side underride. And Mr. Chairman, I ask unanimous consent to enter into the record this particular paper.
Without objection.
Thank you, sir. As far back as 2002, industry was already predicting regulations to be promulgated on rear side and front underride. In the report, the Trucking Association predicted that underride regulations for straight trucks would come as early as 2005. The report shows that industry even predicted the front and side underride regulation would be issued as early as 2006. What other reason would the trucking industry have had as far back as 2002 to be issuing predictive reports about future regulation on truck underrides, if not for the fact that they knew people were dying and that lawmakers would take notice? Ms. Tierney, what evidence is there that side underrides, front underrides, and stronger rear underride guards can increase the likelihood of preventing passenger compartment intrusion and ultimately fatalities from car and truck collisions?
I saw it, and I saw it with my own eyes. I witnessed the rear underride and side underride crash test at IAHS. It was one of the most profound things I've ever witnessed in my life. Those crash tests were successful in both cases, and they prevented passenger compartment intrusion. They took a crash that most likely would have been deadly or catastrophic and turned it to an injury where a driver would have walked away. So they absolutely do save lives, and this is an issue that's so long needed and so heartbreaking to people that continue to lose their loved ones in this way. My dad died of massive head injuries, and Jane Mansfield was probably the most well-known underride crash in this country.
Thank you, Ms. Tierney. And I'll have to admit, I remember when Jane Mansfield died, and that was like, I think it was the 60s. It was that far back, and my staff cautioned me not to mention her name. Since you have, I think I could do it. That means that issue's that far back, over 50 years ago, people have died for that reason, and it should have come to the attention, and safety should have been a concern. Mr. Chairman, I'd also like to enter into the record a 2007 report issued by Transportation Research Board of the National Academies entitled The Domain of Truck and Bus Safety Research into the record.
Without objection.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In this 2007 report, a study conducted by the University of Michigan Transportation Research Institute noted that both front underrides cause particularly fatal results, and the properly undesigned front underrides could reduce fatalities by 27 to 37%. My heart goes out to all the families who have been affected by these tragic collisions: Mary Ann Keith, Lois Durso, Ms. Tierney, and especially Randy and Laurie Higginbotham, whose Michael, son, our constituent, was killed in a truck underride crash in the Memphis area. There are times where we're called upon to simply do the right thing. I hope my colleagues will consider the Stop Underrides Act and help end needless preventable deaths. It is our constitutional duty to keep the American people safe, and taking action to prevent these deaths is the right thing to do. I yield back the remainder of my time. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. And seeing none, no others seeking recognition, I would like to thank each of the witnesses for their testimony today. I ask unanimous consent